Hi there, everyone. This is episode 19 of Doug's Movie Corner Pod. If you are new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. Just as a quick recap, this is where I kind of review what I watched that week in movies or TV show or limited series, whatever it might be. I give my thoughts on those and then I share them with you. If you like this, check out the Movie Bros podcast. That's the one I have with my brother. We pick a movie, we watch that movie, we banter about it. It's much more of a conversation. So if you are looking for something potentially more meat on the bones, I'd say check that out. Otherwise, this is just me rambling for about 15 to 20, 25 minutes or so. And these are posted weekly. You can check this podcast as well as the Movie Bros podcast out on Spotify and on Instagram. As of, I think, yesterday, I am working to get both of these on Amazon, Apple, just so there's different ways if you find podcasts elsewhere, we want to make sure we are available other places. So stay tuned for more on that. And where I post updates on that kind of stuff is on Instagram. So Dunk's Movie Corner Pod or the movie_bros. For that, folks, just figure I kind of get into it. This last week, I'm trying to remember where I left off last week or this week, but I think I'm starting with 1991 Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. Yes, this is, if you are new to this podcast, my subscription to Paramount Plus is running out, and I had never seen these, so the last week or so, I've been grinding through all the sometimes good, sometimes not so good Star Trek movies. This is number 6. The best one was definitely number 2, Wrath of Khan. They're cheesy, sometimes they're fun, a lot of times they're not so good. They're not very action based, and when there is action, it's very much like action from a different era, and you can clearly tell it's almost meant for TV. I don't know how else to explain it, but 2 out of 5. I don't have a lot to say about it. But again, this is number 6. By the time I got to number 6, I was pretty done. Maybe it was smart or not smart to go through all of them back to back to back to back, but that's what I did. So that was early 90s. From there, I jumped ahead to 2020 and watched Birds of Prey. Or again, the title is horrendous, I think, or at least they couldn't decide on it. It's Birds of Prey, parentheses, and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, and parentheses. That's the whole title. It's way too long. It should have just been Birds of Prey. We get it. Harley Quinn's on the cover. I know that she's what's selling the movie, but I don't think you needed all that other stuff. I watched this because Hayden and I chose to watch this for our podcast. So I believe that episode was just posted on Sunday. Today is Monday or Tuesday by the time this comes out. Either way. So if you have any interest in that, there's much more of a comprehensive review. All of our thoughts, our likes or dislikes, what we would change, how Ewan McGregor is interesting as not a good guy, not Obi-Wan Mcconaughey, how many times he says the word fuck in that movie. Yeah, I would say it's pretty fun. I gave it like a 3 out of 5. Like, not a bad movie. Maybe not an amazing movie. There are parts of it that I definitely felt that they could have. I think it's a lot of my issues with movies I've been finding is editing and or just lack of story cohesion, which again, part of that is editing. Uh, and I think this is another one that suffers from it. I'm not saying I could do this for a living, but it seems like I could. I don't know. I feel like I could have made a better cut than this. And Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is fantastic, as always. That's one of those roles. Like, oh, I don't know if I can. Like, eventually they're going to recast her, and I just don't see how that's going to work. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who was married to Ewan McGregor, who's a bad guy in this, plays Huntress, and I like her, but I don't think they give her enough. And there's a couple other characters that they could have just trimmed out. There's a detective, like a police cop person that they don't really need her. She takes up movie screen time. There's a kid that sorta could be there, but otherwise, like Hayden and I discuss it, where you could definitely just change this to be much more fast-paced, quick-cutted, something that's going to hold your attention more. I feel like this uh, built up and died out and built up and died out over again, and it just never felt like it was continuously ramping up for something that I was interested in. Either way, that's 3 out of 5. I'd say check that out. That's on HBO Max. It's 90, maybe 100 minutes of your life. Pretty fun. From there, I went back to 1994. I am now past the old Star Trek cast of like William Shatner and the ones from like the 50s and 60s that maybe if you're listening to this, either you or your parents maybe watched as a kid. I'm now back up to the Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Next Generation. This is the stuff that I watched as a kid. Granted, again, it was old when I was a kid, and now it's. I mean, I think this came out. I mean, the that generation of Star Trek really got its. I don't want to say fame, but it's well known in the early '90s. So again, before I was born, if that dates me at all or doesn't date me, or if you're trying to figure out just how old Duncan really is, since I'm watching stuff from all over the timeline. This is where they tried to blend the William Shatner era with the newer one with Sir Patrick Stewart. I gave it like 2.5, maybe 3 if I'm being generous out of 5. There are so many points where, again, it's editing, it's story based. Where if you're gonna, it's either like they try to do both, but then they just didn't do enough of both. Like they touch on Shatner for like 10 minutes, and then he's in the ending 10 minutes, but the middle, whatever, it's all I don't know. It felt very jumbled, in my opinion. I feel like it could have been cleaned up quite a bit. From there, I went ahead 2 years to Star Trek First Contact. This one's actually pretty good. I gave this maybe like a 3.5 out of 5. Um, this is only the newer cast, no of the older people. An actually interesting story. Sir Patrick Stewart actually knows how to act compared to William Shatner. No, again, no offense to William Shatner. I know he's like an icon of that era, but he is not a good actor comparatively. Yeah, this one, I think this is also one that I had seen when I was much younger and still liked it. So if you have any interest in these movies, I would watch the second one, which is The Wrath of Khan with the original cast, and then I would maybe jump ahead to this one, which is the first real movie with the new cast, or newer, because again, they remade this again, like 15 with Chris Pine and J.J. Abrams, and it's, again, still Star Trek, but very, very different, and I actually like those movies a lot. I think I've talked about those movies on this podcast before. So if you want to hear my thoughts on that, maybe listen back a couple weeks. Usually in the either title or description for these episodes, I try to put which movies I watched, that we kind of have an idea of what kind of things I might be talking about. But if you're curious, check that out because those movies are fun as well. Speaking of fun movies, this is a movie that, again, I've seen a number of things. I had never heard of this. Most people I know never heard of this. Peter Dinklage, Matthew McConaughey, and Gary Oldman, big names, and Kate Beckinsale. At the time, this was 2003. These are all fairly well-known people. The concept is bananas. Like someone showed me the trailer for this, and it almost reads as like an SNL sketch. This is called Tiptoes. The roommates, the housemates, and I decided to put this on a Wednesday night last week, and boy, was that a choice. So Matthew McConaughey is Matthew McConaughey is a normal-sized person. Everyone else in his family are midgets, including Gary Oldman, who again, normal-sized person. They shoot it, or either he's walking around on his knees, or he's got fake legs sitting on a couch. And Matthew McConaughey is getting married to Kate Beckinsale, and she doesn't know that all of his family are midgets. It is one of the wildest, just A, concept B. There's several lines. Like, I can't believe this got made. A, went to the theaters, I think. B, actually got funding. And C, all of these major actors and actresses decided to say, yes, I will do this. It's just bonkers, just say it. So if you need like a wild, one of those like it's bad and it's fun because it's bad movies, this is definitely one of those. From there, I jump back a couple years to 1998, and this is Star Trek Insurrection. This was fine. This was again the new crew, but that first one, First Contact, is very good. And these are, it just felt like, oh, we're gonna make another episode of the show and just make it long enough to where it's a movie. Whereas the first movie felt like a movie. this just felt like another episode. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I would really recommend it. I think again what I said about the good ones and the not still stands true. From there, I jumped ahead a couple years to 2002. The next and I think final one in that run of the movies for them is Star Trek Nemesis. This one I remember as a little kid. It's Captain Picard and his like evil clone who is super young Tom Hardy. I mean, Tom Hardy's gone on to do many, many things if you like him or not. I like his acting. I like his movies. He's done good things. Yeah, it wasn't again, I would probably give this 2.5, maybe 3. Not bad. I think First Contact is better. And because a lot of this stuff is sci-fi futuristic, it gets worse, I find, over time, just because the technology of the real world versus what they think the world is going to be like in the future is so drastically different, and it shows. Um, but yeah, I mean, kudos to Tom Hardy for like landing a pretty major role over 20 years ago. When I don't think, I mean, if you look at him, he looks super young. This is before he does really anything else of note. Before Inception, before Peaky Blinders, before Legend, before really anything else. So good on him. And it was interesting to see him on screen with Patrick Stewart, who is a like thespian, like well known for decades actor who has done tons of stuff. It was just a cool dynamic. Yeah, just a thought. From there, I went back, and because last week I rewatched not Good Will Hunting, Dead Poet Society, excuse me, another Robin Williams movie, which most of it makes you feel amazing, and then there's some heavy bits. I decided to watch because I had never seen it. Good Morning Vietnam. Very similar vibes of the first like half, maybe 3/4 of this is just Robin Williams being fun and fantastic. He's a radio DJ for the troops over in Vietnam back in the time we are, as a country, regardless of what you think about that. Is it an encounter, a war, depending on who you ask, but the Vietnam War, where we just were like, oh yeah, fuck it, we're gonna come help out, even though maybe the people there don't want our help. Yeah, he's so he was such a well-rounded actor, like stand-up comedian that really did good comedy, and someone who could actually act dramatically and really sell it. I don't think I've seen a role of his where he doesn't feel like he is the character. It's not just, oh, it's Robin Williams. It's whoever he may be. Is the last, 30 minutes kind of rough? Sure, I do think Good Will Hunting and actually I think maybe Dead Poet Society, the last 30 minutes where it's heavy stuff happens is worse. But just if you're gonna go watch this, which I would recommend it, it's pretty good. I gave it like a 4 to 5. It's pretty solid. You should know that it's the same kind of format for his dramatic roles where there's gonna be some fun, lighthearted stuff where you connect with him as a character, and then life happens in the second half. From there, yesterday early evening, I watched or rewatched because I've seen this movie several times. I do like it a lot. Knives Out. This was 2019. This I was talking to my parents about this because I was at their house visiting, and there's a lot of good movies that came out. Like if you look at the filmography of 2019, that was a banger year for film. Like a lot of good stuff. But this may not be the best movie of the year, but I think this was actually like either my favorite and or like the most fun I had at a theater. Like the first time I saw this because it's a murder mystery with like a really fun twist. I don't want to say too much because if you haven't seen this, I really do highly recommend it. The casting is phenomenal. The music, I think more people don't pick up on that, but if you listen to it, the music's really great. The costuming, the set design, the story, the editing. This is where all these things actually work. That's why this is a 5 out of 5 for me. The reason why I rewatched this is part of the Thanksgiving movie episode that Hayden and I are gonna do this coming week to post next week. And the reason why this is Thanksgiving, like the vibes of it just feels like it's not quite Christmas time, but it definitely feels like fall-y, maybe October, November-ish time of year where it's filmed. It just feels like that. And it's all about families and family dynamic. Again, I don't want to get too far into it, but even just watch the trailer if you haven't seen this. It's really good. From there, last night, maybe this is TMI, but my dog stole some pasta off a counter that had a little bit of onion in it. Because sometimes he's a good boy, sometimes he's not so good. So he was having some digestive issues. So I was up very late and at consistently odd hours. So I took him out at 1 a.m., 3 a.m., and 5. And then I gave up, and I think my mom heard his whining and took him out again at 8 because he was just having horrendous runs. Because apparently, if dogs eat too much onion, it's fatal. But he only had a little bit, so it was just working its way through his system, and he was just super gassy, super uncomfortable. Again, it's his fault. He's doing shit that he should not be doing. But either way, my sleep schedule was absolutely fucked yesterday. That's why I am very reluctant to post this kind of stuff with video attached, because I've got pretty big bags underneath my eyes right now. I'm tired, I'm sore, I'm just not sleeping well, I'm grouchy. Either way, because that happened and I was up late, I watched another movie late last night because, well, if I have to be up late to make sure he's not going to like ruin a carpet somewhere, I might as well watch something. This was another one I'd never heard of. It was it's middle of the road, it's fine. It's called Youth in Revolt. It's the era where Michael Cera played like the awkward preteen teenager in like 12 different movies, I feel like. It's just another one of those. He is moved to a trailer park. The story is not worth getting into, to be honest. Again, it's not that I hated it. I didn't love it. There are fun bits, but it was very much like, oh, I probably could have told you every beat of this movie after watching the first 5 minutes. And at midnight or whatever, yeah, that's fine. Sometimes I don't need anything highbrow. And I think that's roughly what I watched. Again, sometimes, especially these last like week or two, when I've been watching a ton of these not so great Star Trek movies, I can't remember which one I ended the week on or which one I start a week on. So if I missed a movie or if I talked a movie last week that I also talked about this week, sorry, but it's not a perfect system. I'm also a human. I'm doing this because, well, why not? If you want something a little bit more coherent, less rambly, again, the Movie Bros podcast is there for a reason. That's my brother and I, and we potentially, Hayden and I have chatted about this. That's my brother, and I've talked with a couple friends about potentially being a guest bro, for lack of a better word, just doing a guest on an episode to talk about movies. So those might be coming. Obviously, look out for the holiday episode that I referenced, which is Knives Out and Fantastic Mr. Fox for Thanksgiving. You can always check this podcast out next, roughly Monday, Tuesday, whenever I end up editing episodes and posting. But if you want to, again, hear what I watched that week. But to end this episode, I also finished The Penguin, all 8 episodes or whatever it was. Fantastic. Highly recommend. There was a little bit of the ending that I feel like could have been maybe more, not impactful, but I felt like it let off the gas a little bit. Because the whole show is pretty much, it's not like fast paced, but it's definitely like a grittier crime boss kind of mafia show, and it's great. But it felt like it kind of took almost like a little breath at the end that they should have just been really gunning if it's the finale. I'm just saying. And then I also have been watching an episode 2 or more of Normal People. If you've never heard this, this is Hulu. This is Paul Mescal. This is Daisy Edgar Jones. I finally remember her name. It's their like, I don't want to say love story, but love story of like connecting, falling apart, connecting. It's just their life together. It's very good. They have amazing chemistry. I know it's just acting, but I'm like, oh man, are they really together? Because I always see photos of them out in public together being friendly, but I'm like, how could that not be real? That was it's so good. I don't know. A lot of it comes down to the pauses, and it's just the stuff that's not said. I think makes a bigger impact. However, the things they do say in the show, they don't beat around the bush. Like they are very, I don't want to say straightforward people, but when they do want to talk about actual emotions, they talk about emotions. but not in this, like, heavy way. I don't really know how to explain it. It works really, really well. If you've never checked that out, if you want kind of both a good watch, sometimes it's not a happy watch, but sometimes you're like, "God damn, this is some romance." Just saying. I would recommend that. The Penguin, again, is, of course, on HBO Max. Otherwise, folks, that's what I watched this week. Come back next week if you want some more, and, hang in there, I guess, until then.